everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're back with Game of Thrones and we got the history and lore for season 2. I don't know how many parts it's gonna be, probably gonna be 3 or 4, but sit back and relax, man. Before we get into this, I was gonna put on the Ravenclaw shirt. I'm like, I haven't put this on in a video for the reaction channel yet. I was like, what else I wear when I did this video? I had the Ravenclaw shirt on, so I had to throw in a Gryffindor, man. I had to throw in a Gryffindor. You feel me? I'm a Ravenclaw, but Gryffindor is my second. You feel me? What was I gonna say? Oh, I was just watching the what was it called? Goddamn! Right before recording this video, like information on the Last of Us show, you know what I'm saying, on HBO. And one thing I heard was the actress for Ellie, she came from Game of Thrones, so I guess I'm gonna see her later on. It's probably gonna be in the later seasons because she's gonna be playing a teenager, so unless she's a goddamn baby in the show. And then also I be talking about projects that I'm working on when it come to me looking at the Game of Thrones history and lores, or just Game of Thrones in general. Another project, like my number 2 project, is a zombie. Like, zombie is like my favorite type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Zombie, sci-fi, whatever, you know. Zombie and sci-fi are like my top things. And I'm like, damn. It might kind of be hard to pitch this if Last of Us, the show gets off the ground. I mean, it is off the ground, but you know what I'm saying, it like takes off. But then it's also like, damn, I gotta be hopeful that it takes off, because let's be honest, the zombie Zarah is unfortunately dying. You have to just take what you get. I have to look at Black Summer and I have to be like, it's the greatest. It's alright, but you can't critique it too much. But that's enough talking. That has nothing to do with this, but it is what it is. I just wanted to talk about it, dude. Before you get into this, make sure you thumbs up and subscribe, and let's get it. Got the hot chocolate ready. I don't know how loud my fan is. Well, I got both fans on, but the ceiling fan don't really make noises like that. But I got Rice Krispies to the side.
When Aegon and his dragons burned Harren the Black and all his sons at Harrenhal, the days when men feared the sight of our longships were over. Aegon would not permit marauders and raiders in his 7 kingdoms. With Harren died our empire and the old way that forged it. But what is dead may never die. 6 years after Robert Baratheon won his crown, my father, Balon Greyjoy, sought to restore our ancient rights. He declared the Iron Islands independent and himself its king, and sent the Iron Fleet in a daring raid on Lannisport, where they burned the Lannister ships at anchor, making us unchallenged in the Sunset Sea. This was the seed of our undoing. My eldest brother Roderick led a frontal assault on Seaguard, a town built to protect the mainland from us.
This gonna show me you get sent off, my guy.
Beneath the city walls, he was slain by Lord Jason Mallister and his men defeated. By this time, Stannis Baratheon had brought Robert's fleet around Westeros and somehow managed to trap the Iron Fleet at Fair Isle, smashing it. Robert's victory was now all but assured, yet we made him bleed for each island. Stannis Baratheon captured Great Wick, the largest of the Iron Islands, and Ser Barristan Selmy himself subdued Old Wick. Robert and Lord Eddard Stark led the main assault against the island of Pike. They razed the town of Lordsport to the ground before Robert turned his full fury on our family's stronghold. When they breached the walls, the first through was Thoros of Myr with his ridiculous flaming sword, followed by every minor lord of Westeros hungry for glory. My other brother Maron was killed when the siege engines brought down a tower on his head.
That should look like an infinity.
I was now my father's only living son, and heir to the Iron Islands. When my father saw his cause was lost, he wisely conceded defeat to Robert, who otherwise would have pulled down our castle stone by stone with us in it. as my father said to me then, no man has ever died from bending his knee. He who kneels may rise again, blade in hand. He who will not kneel stays dead, stiff legs and all. As it stands, Robert allowed my father to keep his lands and title as Lord of the Iron Islands, King of Salt and Rock, Son of the Sea Wind, Lord Reaper of Pike, for a price. His last son and heir shipped off to Winterfell as an honoured guest. I would eat at the Stark's table and play with the Stark children. And if my father rebelled again, Lord Eddard Stark would take his sword and cut off my head.
Damn.
It would be his duty.
I mean, that puts it in perspective a little bit. I mean, I already knew what time it was, but it's tough. That's tough. Like, the only person that I'll kind of look at a different way if I was you, my guy, is Ned. And he dead. Bars. That just did not feel right to say bars after that, but I can't not say it. Like, bars and pause, I have to say those in whenever the situation arises. It's mandatory. Yeah, give me some backstory in Harrenhal, because that shit is... But yeah, you went against, like, bro, what are you gonna do if you caught Bran and them? Like,
Of the God's Eye, due north of the Isle of Faces, rises a monument to arrogance and cruelty. Harrenhal. For a people who prided themselves on their ships, the Iron Men of old seized any chance to leave them, and carved out a vast kingdom from the peaceful river lords. The empire reached its zenith under King Harrenhal, called the Black by those he terrorized, and by his own men, though they meant it proudly. King Harren enslaved the Riverlands to raise the mightiest fortress Westeros had ever seen. A castle that could garrison 1,000,000 men, with walls so vast that winters would come and go, and besieging armies grow old and grey before the castle fell. 5 towers he ordered, reaching into the heavens like grasping fingers. A monstrosity which he forced our people to build for their own subjugation. But the very day the slaves laid the last stone, Aegon Targaryen and his sisters arrived in the south. When they arrived with their small army, Harren laughed and shut the gates. Harrenhal would have its first test, and an easy one at that. It failed. Harrenhal could have withstood an assault from all the armies in Westeros combined. But Harren learned that the tallest and thickest walls meant little to dragons, for dragons fly. With Harren and his sons dead, Harrenhal quickly surrendered to Aegon. House Tully then raised the River Lords in rebellion against the Iron Islands, and with Aegon we flushed the Iron Men to the sea. We should have torn down the castle stone by stone then, but Harrenhal seemed such a magnificent prize that Aegon gave it to one of his commanders, whose line then withered to extinction, as would every family to hold it thereafter.
Damn.
When many speak of Harrenhal, their voices drop to whispers about Mad Lady Lothson, who was said to send a giant bat to collect children for her crockpots, and to bathe in blood and serve feasts of human flesh. About the ghosts of Black Harren and his sons who still walk the castle at night, all aflame. Of the servants who went to bed in full health, and were found in the morning, burnt to ash. Mere stories to frighten wayward children and excite young girls, you may say. You would not be entirely wrong. Harrenhal is a prize. A nigh impregnable castle with enough land and enough income to make a man, at a stroke, one of the greatest lords in Westeros. But you would not be entirely right either. Say by a king's grace, Harrenhal became yours. Now you must garrison it. You must repair it and maintain it. Even stretched to the ends of your means, you cannot fill and manage the whole castle. So you retreat your household to 4 of the 5 towers, then 3, then 2. Then only the bottom thirds of those. You close the whole of 100 hearths and take your meals in your rooms. Even then you can't shake the feeling of desolation. That Harrenhal and its vastness is devouring you. In later years, as you bury a grandson or a great-grandson, the last of your line, you will know it has.
Golly. Nothing. Oh, shit, brother. Nothing but
Where the
like...
north has its honor and the south its chivalry, the Iron Islands.
That's that. Hold on. I'm trying to think. That would be kind of cool. Listen, I don't usually... Actually, that's a goddamn lie. Just don't do it anymore. When it comes to movies, shows, and games, I'm not a horror guy. Haunted Houses, it was kind of cool. Just try like seeing how everything was around. But imagine... I don't even know if there is or not. But like, you know how you have like if you go to Universal Studios, they got their whole like Wizarding World section. They got like doesn't one of them have a Hogwarts? I know for sure you got Diagon Alley, but imagine one for Game of Thrones, and then Harrenhal is like a fucking what's it called? Like a haunted house type shit. Or not even. Actually, add on to that. Like it's like a motel type shit. And then let's just say you stay like 3 days or whatever. With every day, it gets creepier and creepier. Shit would be kind of cool. Listen, if this is not happen, I need my royalty check. I don't need anything too big. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to get a check whatsoever, man. Whatever I got to do to go and put my 2 weeks notice in, just, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead and slide me a little money, you feel me?
Islands has its strength.
We call ourselves the Ironborn, and we are warriors feared throughout the 7 kingdoms.
Or so we used to be. Unlike their mainland cousins, the first men of the Iron Islands never bowed to the old gods.
Theirs was the drowned god, who made the Ironborn to reave and sack and write their names in salt, steel, and song, that his enemy, the storm god, could not wash away. We raised our kings from our own ranks, and used beaten foes as thralls to work our mines and farm our land.
Or as salt wives, if a woman was pretty enough. Such was the old way, and while we followed it, we held sway wherever the waves were heard. When Aegon came demanding fealty, King Harren the Black ruled as far east as the Trident.
Other kings like the Starks could kneel, but Harren was Ironborn, and the Ironborn must be beaten. In Harrenhal, he had the mightiest castle in Westeros, and the army to defend it.
But Aegon did not intend a siege. He mounted his dragon and roasted Harren and all his sons in their tower, and the Old Way with them. Because of Harren's defiance, Aegon pushed the Ironborn back to our islands and gave the Riverlands to the Tullys. But he did allow the Ironborn to choose who would lead them.
House Greyjoy had always been one of the
trash.
greatest houses of the Iron Islands. We trace our descent from the Age of Heroes and the legendary Grey King, who took a mermaid to wife and made war upon the Storm God for 1,000 years.
Blessed by the drowned god, the Grey King fought and slew Naga, the great sea dragon, and took her fire for his own.
This history made our ancestor Vicon Greyjoy the natural choice to lead the Ironborn after Aegon's conquest. For 300 years, House Greyjoy ruled the Ironborn. We styled ourselves Lord of the Iron Islands, King of Salt and Rock, Son of the Sea Wind, Lord Reaper of Pike.
In truth, we were thralls. Our people still chanted, "What is dead may never die." But the Old Way had died.
Until the Targaryens followed their dragons into the grave, and our Lord Father, Balon Greyjoy, rose against the new king, Robert Baratheon. He seized our ancient crown and sent our Iron Fleet against the Lannisters at Lannisport, burning all their ships before any could weigh anchor.
Though Robert and Eddard Stark would later defeat him, they understood us no better than Aegon. The Greyjoy sigil is the Kraken. What it grasped once, it will never surrender.
What is dead may never die, but rises again.
Get out of my ear.
Harder and stronger.
I ain't gonna lie, the first shot of the sigil, you know what I'm saying, with everyone else's sigils,
though Robert had risked
wrapped with the tentacles, that shit was kind of cool. I mean, you know what I'm saying, when you went down to the face of the Kraken, it was a little less. I'm gonna run you back, Stannis.
Though Robert had risked all our lives to win it, the Iron Throne bored him. He cared little for justice, and less for rule. If it weren't women or wineskin, he had no use for it. Without the stalwart Jon Arryn as Hand of the King, the challenge to Robert's crown would have come much earlier than it did. The Iron Islands have never lacked for treachery. They respect only strength, and honor is as foreign to them as the Seven. After 6 years, their ruler, Lord Balon Greyjoy, wagered that King Robert had not won the support of the great houses of Westeros, many of whom still named him usurper. Lord Balon declared the Iron Islands independent, and sent his Iron Fleet to Lannisport. Lord Tywin Lannister was careless, and the Ironborn caught and burnt his ships at anchor. Lord Balon and his reavers controlled the Sunset Sea. Robert then ordered me to succeed where his father-in-law, Lord Tywin, had failed. Beneath Robert's fury, I sensed relief. War he could understand. He would smash Lord Balon as he had Rhaegar. I raised Robert's fleet and sailed around Westeros to the Iron Islands. I set a trap for the Iron Fleet off Fair Isle. As sailors and warriors, the Ironborn are unparalleled. But they're not soldiers. They have no discipline, no strategy, no unity.
Yeah, that was
in a battle, each
evident.
Man fights only for his own glory. And their longships are built for lightning strikes and shore raids. When the captains rushed in, I smashed their longships with our larger war galleys. The strength of the Ironborn is in their ships. With the Iron Fleet broken, I had assured Robert's victory. He could now transport troops and siege weapons to invade the Iron Islands. And contrary to Balon's hopes, Robert had plenty of both. I've never seen such allegiance as Robert could inspire in war. Enemies who tried to kill him one day would be drinking with him the next under their own fallen banners. In rebelling against the Iron Throne, Lord Balon did more than Robert ever could to cement his rule. When Robert came to the Iron Islands, he brought with him the full power of Westeros. Sir Barristan Selmy of the King's Guard led the assault on Old Wick, while I subdued Great Wick, the largest of the Iron Islands. But Robert saved the seat of House Greyjoy, Pike, for himself and Lord Eddard. Robert would later boast of the battle's bloodiness and how he could have torn down the island into the waves if Lord Balon hadn't bent the knee. But if I'd have led the assault, Balon's neck would have bent, under his sword. Because I do not forget, I do not pardon. His time will come. All their times will come.
The Seven are gods of weakness and defeat. Pretty chains that the first men kindly put on after the Andals crushed
I was gonna
them.
say, like, 2 things ago. I don't know if I'm tripping or not, but this does not sound like the actress. I must be tripping, but this does not sound like her.
Except in the Iron Islands.
I'm trying to picture it.
Since the Dawn Age, the Ironborn have followed the drowned god, who plucked fire from the sea and made us to reave and sack and carve our names in blood and song. When the Andals landed on the Iron Islands, they found a god who was father, warrior, and stranger, who took mother, maiden, and crone when he would, and held the smith in thrall. His priests are the drowned men, who are clothed and armed by the sea itself. They consecrate us to the drowned god through our most sacred rite, the drowning, and ask the god to raise us from the sea as he was, harder and stronger. The Ironborn do not fear the bloodiest battles or the roughest waves, for the drowned god taught us long ago that what is dead may never die. When an Ironborn falls, we say the drowned god needed a strong oarsman and took him below to feast in the god's watery halls, attended by mermaids. But even in death, an Ironborn is a warrior. We fight against the storm god, who holds a castle in the clouds, and send...
I ain't gonna say too much while I looked. I explained it in like episode 6. Just know, once again, before coming up with certain things, I have never seen or heard of anything Game of Thrones.
The winds to lure the Ironborn off course or wreck our ships. It's said my legendary ancestor, the Grey King, waged war upon the Storm God for 1,000 years. With the Drowned God's help, he slew the great sea dragon Naga and used her bones for his haul. After his death, the Storm God tried to wash away any memory of this terrible foe, but his songs fill our halls to this day. It was the Storm God who first blew the Andals to the Iron Islands, to subdue us and turn us from our faith. True, they conquered and killed our king, but in time they forsook their septs for the shore, and their fat septons for the drowned men. The Andals came to us as conquerors. In the end, they drowned. The Ironborn are of the sea, as our god made us, and given to it as our god taught us. We do not fear the storm god's winds or his waves, but you should, for they bring us to you.